Once again, here's Dara and more Off the Menu on News Radio 830 WCCO and WCCO.com.
Welcome back. And we have Damian McConn on the line. Damian is the head brewer for Summit, and which is our largest and most successful local craft brewery. Hi, Damian.
Good morning, Dara. How are you, lass?
Good. How are you?
Oh, grand. Thanks, grand. No bother.
I tore you away from your St. Patrick's Day personal preparations, didn't I?
Aye. I was knee-deep in about 12 pounds of chuck beef there when you dragged me over here for a wee chat. But that's all right. We'll manage.
Are you braising it in Summit?
I am, yeah. I'm using the Great Northern Porter. I have a bit of a gathering every year around this time in celebration of St. Pat's, and usually have around 20 or 30 folk over. And one of the dishes I like to do is kind of a braised beef using Great Northern Porter from Summit. It's a nice dish. It's good and hearty, and considering the weather we have right now, it seems fairly appropriate. So,
do you do it in the oven, or is it a crock pot braise?
It's more of a crock pot braise. I'll also do a kind of a traditional lamb shepherd's pie too, and a few other bits and bobs. So.
Nice. So you're a real Minnesotan now. You're making your Irish food in a crock pot.
Oh, yeah. I'm a bona fide transplant now, yeah. I'm even into hockey and baseball and all the rest of it. So
an Irish hockey player. Well, good for you. So I actually really need to get to the bottom of, do they celebrate St. Patrick's Day the way we do here in Ireland?
It's a little bit different back home. It's more of a cultural holiday. Think of it as a kind of a combination of the 4th of July and Thanksgiving. So, I mean, being a national holiday, all the businesses would be closed, and of course it's a religious holiday, so we'd all go to Mass in the morning, and then usually you'd spend lunch with family, and after that the National Hurling and Gaelic Football Championships are on in Dublin, so they'd be televised. And we'd often watch those.
And hurling, for those at home who are not, don't know what hurling is?
Hurling is a little bit like a cross between lacrosse and field hockey. It's played on a field the size of an American football field. Has 15 players a side, and they have an ash stick that's about 3 feet long with a large face, and then they use a hurley ball. It looks a little bit like a baseball. And the goal then is to try and either hit the ball between the uprights, similar to the uprights you'd see on an American football field, or try and score a goal in the back of a net, kind of like the soccer nets you'd see for soccer matches. So the team with the most points at the end scores. It's a very technical, very skillful game. It was originally used by the ancient Celts, the ancient Irish, as training before battle. It's one of the oldest field sports in the world. It goes back about 2,000 years. And that's the national sport of Ireland. And then, of course, there's Gaelic football, which is more of a cross between rugby and soccer, which is another popular sport back home.
So if you were at home, you would be hanging out with your brothers on the couch and watching hurling? Is that the...
Exactly, yeah. Think of it as like, over here after Thanksgiving dinner, you'd be sitting down to watch the Cowboys play Detroit or something like that. Well, we'd be watching maybe a team from Dublin play a team from Kerry in the National Gaelic Football Championship. And then in the evening, maybe we'd head down to the local pub or tavern to drown the shamrock, as we'd say back home.
Oh, well, that's basically what we do here. I think that St. Patrick's Day has turned into kind of the other Halloween. It's I saw many people already downtown Minneapolis with cute hats and red wigs and like that.
Halloween meets Mardi Gras, perhaps. There's
yes.
Plenty of beads around the place.
Yeah. Which is fun, I have to say. But so I also want to just get into what's happening at Summit now. So you've been the head brewer for about how long now?
I've been head brewer about a year. I've a bit less than that, perhaps. I've been with Summit for over 10 years now. And
I know you came here because you felt like the American craft brew scene was better than the European one.
Correct, right. I really wanted to see what the whole craft beer scene was about over here, and try and take part in the whole creative, innovative approach that's really happening over here in the States. You know, we have some great beer back home in Europe, but there's a lot of fun stuff happening in the U.S., and I really wanted to be part of that.
And then you're part of Summit's huge expansion.
Aye, that expansion will finish here this summer. It's going to allow us to brew about twice as much beer as we possibly can right now. So our capacity would increase from about 120,000 barrels up to about 250,000.
250,000 barrels. Are you getting into Brooklyn Brewing big craft brew territory?
Well, if you think about it, Sierra Nevada, which is probably the largest craft brewer in the country, does about 1 million barrels a year, and they're, of course, building a brand new brewery on the East Coast, which will allow them to expand. I think this craft beer is growing in leaps and bounds, and we're seeing that here in the upper Midwest. So in order to satisfy demand, we have to put those fermenters in, I suppose. So
you're going to be a quarter the size of the biggest.
Quarter the size of the biggest, but if you put us in the contrast to, say, Anheuser-Busch, one of their breweries would do 10 to 12 million barrels a year. So still a drop in the bucket when it comes to the big boys.
So, and then tell us all, I know that a lot of this expansion is about Pilsner. Explain to the people what Pilsner is, really.
Well, our Pilsner is a classical Czech-style Pils. Of course, Pilsner dates back to the 1840s, a golden lager that's matured for a long period of time, and you end up with a very crisp and clean beer. The problem, not the problem, but the challenge, I suppose, to make a really good Pilsner is that it takes quite a long time to condition, to lager in those tanks, so you get that clean, crisp finish.
And that's a cold thing. It's supposed to happen at a low temperature, is that right?
Exactly. That clean, crisp note really comes from a long period of cold maturation, roughly around freezing, around 32 to 33 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's, of course, that period of time. The only way to enable that would be to build more tanks, to install more tanks so that the beer has the opportunity to sit for a longer period of time. And all good lager beers, whether it's Pilsner or Oktoberfest or current seasonal Maibach, they take a long time to mature and mellow out. And you need the tank space if you're going to make good lager beer. So
anybody who just joined us, we have Damian McConn, the head brewer of Summit Brewing, talking about all things important and Irish on this St. Patrick's Day, including the great Pilsner expansion that Summit's undergoing. So what are some other things that Summit's up to? I know you've been doing these Unchained series, like very micro runs of things.
Right. Our latest Unchained is Unchained number 12, brewed by Gabe Smalley, one of our brewers, and that's 100% organic ale with organic malts.
I tried that. I like that. It's a kind of a malty, robust, sweeter beer a little.
In many ways, that's true. The hops are added towards the end, and also in the fermenter, it's heavily dry hops. So the bitterness is not very assertive, but there's a fair amount of hop character that I think is nicely balanced by those darker malts that Gabe chose to use. And he also used 100% organic yeast, which is a real challenge to come by because you can't obtain it commercially. You have to propagate it yourself in the lab, and then we also use the pilot brewery at Summit to help us culture up that strain. So
I know some secrets. So you guys actually have some of the old brewing chemists from, is it Hams?
Hams and Strohs. Yeah, we have a couple of folk who worked with some of the more famous St. Paul brewing names over the years. So we have that knowledge as part of our staff, which is great. They can bring a lot to the table, as the saying goes.
Because a lot of people don't know how to do that. I mean, a lot of this kind of brewing culture has just been lost. People don't know how to make brewing yeast from scratch, right?
Right. Commercial yeast banks and universities are often the source of yeast cultures today for a lot of breweries, but it helps when you've got people who are very experienced in that area and kind of can help out when it comes to propping up yeast, right from a small wee slant in the lab all the way to pitching yeast into 300 barrels of wort.
Oh, I think that's very cool. I like that beer too, the new Unchained number 12. It's a good food beer, and the food beer thing is happening all day. So are you going to serve you started to talk before about your braising Great Northern Porter beef together for your own St. Patrick's Day. Are you going to serve that with Great Northern Porter?
I have a wee bar in my basement, the house, as you would imagine, and I'll actually have a cask of Great Northern Porter on draft down there, and then I'll have an actual 6-barrel, a keg of the organic ale. So I'm thinking of putting the organic ale in with the lamb in the shepherd's pie. See how that might work. Might be a little too hoppy. We'll see how it goes.
That sounds like a pretty deluxe spread. All right. Well, Damian McCann from Summit Brewing, thank you so much for joining us. I want to come to your house for this party. But happy St. Patrick's Day to you, sir. And thanks for coming and joining us here on Off the Menu.
Absolutely, Dara. Thanks very much for having me on, and have a nice day tomorrow.
All right. Well, we'll be back in a bit